Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of The Bright Side of Life. I am your host, Melissa Bright. Today, I am talking to Spencer Sherman, and Spencer is helping us transform our relationship to money from fear and confusion to ease and enough. Since founding Abacus, a values-driven independent financial firm, Spencer has been bringing his business acumen and 30 plus year meditation and emotional intelligence practice to help people of all wealth level experience confidence and freedom with their finances. He is also the author of Cure for Money Madness and on the faculty of NYU's Inner MBA program. So today, really, Spencer and I are going to be talking about money beliefs and how we might be able to recognize if we have certain beliefs around money, which we all do, but maybe they might be hindering us in a little way, and maybe kind of shift that perspective. And we're going to go over some techniques, practices, all that fun stuff around the taboo topic of money. Spencer, welcome to the Bright Side of Life. How are you today?
It's great to be here with you. I'm very excited to have this conversation.
I am too. And for all of my listeners, Spencer and I is this our third interview or fourth
Yeah,
interview? Third.
I think
Okay.
it's our third. Yes.
I'm losing count. So I have interviewed him on the self-care summit that I so often talk about on my podcast. So we've had the pleasure of doing those interviews, but now it's my turn to kind of have it laid back and get to ask him all my fun questions. So, Spencer, let's start with your backstory. How did you get into the field that you are in now? And more importantly, into the whole meditation and mindfulness practice around money. How did that become a thing?
Yeah. I think often people come to mindfulness meditation from suffering, right? Something happens, something dramatic often happens. We hit bottom, and that's what happened to me. I was working in Philadelphia for a large investment firm. A fire broke out in the building. And on day 2 of the fire, I had a panic attack because my computer, all my client files were on that computer. I felt like my whole my whole self-worth was inside that building that was on fire. And I somehow convinced, this is where good negotiation skills can get you in trouble. I somehow convinced the fire marshal to let me into that building. He leads me in. I'm walking through this murky water. The smells are horrific. And I get to my desk. I grab this computer. I get outside. And then I realize that this computer has been completely drenched with water. And it turned out to be completely a useless piece of equipment. And of course, all the files were backed up anyway. But this belief that I kind of wired it back to this early childhood belief that money is the most important thing. Money is more important than anything. This was this pervasive belief in my family that money holds security. And if you're without money, you're without safety, you're like without your life. So when I look at it that way, and it's funny that there's some truth in all those beliefs that money is a form of security. So, my father there was some wisdom in what he was saying. But here's the thing about the beliefs is that when we hear these beliefs as kids, and I got this belief, early on, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, that's when we really form our sort of financial, I don't know, I never used this term before, but our financial personality, our financial way of being in the world, our financial behaviors, our patterns start to get formed really early. Like we think this topic is adult, and it's really a childhood topic. That's when we learn, or we mislearn, one could say, everything about money. We're around our families, we're around the culture, and we imbibe, we sense the tension. Even if our parents often don't talk about money, given that it's so taboo, often there's no mention about money. we see things change. We see the ups and downs of money, the setbacks that they have, and we make up stuff. We add in our own filters and biases to what we hear and see and sense. And then I come up with this very strong idea that money is more important than anything. And it leads to this panic attack. And I go into this building, risk my life, risk asbestos, electrocution. It was the like, I mean, I think the other litmus test, maybe Melissa, of a day that's a turning point in our lives is a day that we might feel is the worst day and the best day of our life. And in some ways, I feel that in the reframe.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a great day in my life because it was a huge wake up call that I was operating on this treadmill of working tirelessly, putting in 18-hour days, just this relentless pursuit of money.
Mm-hmm.
And the fire represented the fear that it was all going to vanish, like I was losing myself in that fire. And that's what kind of forced me to go over the fire marshal and try to get in. And it was this incredible wake up call. I mean, it was just, I just can't tell you the terror that I felt. And this is like these clues that we have when we feel this terror inside ourselves, this overreaction, if you will. I mean, it's a kind of a funny term, an overreaction, because we have our reactions. How can it be an overreaction? We have the perspective like from a calmer place. We can look back and say, wait a second, that I lost $50 today. I spent too much money today. I bought something I didn't need. Why am I sweating and feeling this panic attack? And why was I feeling a panic attack about this computer in the building? Like my life was on the line. That's when we know that this is something much larger, and that we're fixating. What happens is we grip these beliefs. So we grip a belief like money is so important, and it's that gripping, it's that adherence, that allegiance to the belief that usually that's what gets us in trouble. And so when you're watching yourself around money, start to notice, when are you sort of having these emotional reactions, when are you more on autopilot, which is sometimes hard to see. How do we see ourselves on autopilot? But you start to see these patterns, and then every now and then you might get lucky, like I did, and have something dramatic happen. And that's a telltale sign that there's something deeper going on. And that led me to go on a 10-day silent meditation retreat. So it was 10 days. It was a 10-day silent meditation retreat. Wow. I realized I needed to do something big. Now, for the rest of us, it might be a different medicine than a 10-day silent meditation retreat. Maybe it's deciding to do some therapy. Maybe it's just saying, I'm going to take up an exercise program, or I'm going to start journaling, or I'm going to really discover what went on. So this is what's key here, is when you have something big come up with money, that's an opportunity to investigate. And my form of investigation took the form of a meditation retreat, because I felt like I wanted the laboratory setting of that silence to really look at myself. And it was a powerful wake up to that, of what wealth is. Because I had thought that wealth has so much about what's in my pockets, what's in my bank accounts. And here I am on this meditation retreat with no material possessions. I felt, in many ways, I felt wealthy. Right. I felt really alive, really abundant. And yet I didn't have all this money with me. I didn't have possessions with me. So that started to break down this story that I held, this agreement that I had with almost my family. Like, we have agreements with our families, like the agreement is you have to believe that money is so critically important in order to almost be a member of this family. That is one of our values.
Mm.
So that's what I'd start to look at is, is where, what did your family stand for? And there's nothing wrong with the values that your family stands for. It's when we grip these values, that's when we can kind of override the rational mind. Like I was not able to say to myself, wait a second, the files are backed up. I don't have to go over to the fire marshal. There's nothing wrong here. I'm going to live. And my life is way more important than that computer. I was not able to have that reflection. So that's another indication when you do something that, like a risky behavior, you make your life less important than money, for example. That's a sign. When you're willing to compromise your integrity for money, that's a sign to start looking at the way you fixate on these beliefs, the way we
Yeah.
grip to them. So that to me, there in the darkness is where the opportunity is. When we see it
Absolutely.
today, so that's a
Yeah.
long way of answering that question of sort of how I um, how I came to. I think your question was something around how do I come to meditation or
Yeah, just your backstory on that.
yeah, that's for me what I I the thing that mindfulness, I mean, there's many forms of mindfulness. You could
Mhm.
be mindful while you're dancing. You could be
Yep.
mindful while you're writing. You don't have to go to some cave and be silent and sit in a lotus position. But the thing about the generic form of mindfulness is really about being able to sit with and look at yourself
Yep.
from this objective vantage point of really seeing yourself in a much
Mhm.
broader way, kind of getting outside the conditioning of how you see yourself. That's what mindfulness offers, and that quiet of mindfulness, that stillness that you can cultivate. You can just get a cup of coffee
Yep.
at an uncrowded coffee bar and just sit with yourself and start to notice what arises when you feel this compulsion to buy something. What's really happening? What are the seeds that led to that moment of buying something? Was it that right before you didn't feel good about yourself? Is it that
Mm.
every time there's a moment of boredom, you've got to shake up that moment of boredom in some way? I mean, that's the investigation that I think is so valuable and can turn around our lives in our financial lives, and every aspect of our life can be turned around when we start to investigate.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to get a little bit more to that, but I wanted to ask you, so you did not meditate before this breakdown that you had? You had never done anything like that
I
prior?
I had done a little bit of meditation, so
Okay.
um, being the kind of go-getter, I was just brought up with this sense like you've got to get A's, you've got to succeed, otherwise you're going to be out on the street. I mean, there was a lot of um, pushing for success,
Yeah.
uh, not a lot of pushing for joy. I mean,
Mm,
that's what was missing from my childhood is like the focus was on what are you going to accomplish today?
right.
And, so in high school, out of that relentless pursuit of sort of achieving grades and confirmation from the outside world that I was okay, I
Mhm.
actually found a book in the library that said meditate to improve your SAT scores. It was something like that. It was like it didn't use the word meditate. It was actually like generating alpha brain waves
Okay.
to improve your brain.
Right.
And I thought, okay, I'm going to try this. because I want to improve my SAT scores. And they did improve. I can't say whether correlation is causality, but they did improve as a result of that book. So that was my first taste. And then college, I actually dabbled a little bit in meditation through a course I took. So I had some sense of it. And I had enough sense to know that I needed to do something deep, and I need to make some commitment to myself and take myself out of the
Mm.
financial arena for those 10 days. That
Mm.
I had to I had this, one of the words that keeps coming up for me, Melissa, in the last couple of weeks is the word interrupt. I
Okay.
had to interrupt my patterns. And I thought that a 10-day silent retreat would be an incredible way to interrupt my patterns. Um, and that's what I would so suggest around money, is to notice what you're habitually doing and try something different.
Yeah.
Because where we have these thoughts, it's the thought patterns that get us in trouble. And if you want, we can talk a little bit about what happened to you recently, but we have these automatic thoughts that flow when something bad happens. A lot of us tend to be very self-critical,
Yep.
and to notice that pattern and interrupt that pattern. Interrupting a pattern is a way to start. It's not about being disloyal to your family or your culture. It's
Mm-mm.
about just having a little bit more spaciousness with that belief. So
Yeah.
that's what it does. Like, if you have a belief that you're bad with money,
Mm-hmm.
or that I'll never be rich, or rich people are happier, just interrupting that thought pattern, doing something different instead of recirculating those thoughts, will start to give you some choice. Instead of being at the effect of those thoughts, you'll have some choice in your life. And then the thoughts will get weaker. They may not ever completely vanish, but they'll have less control over you when you're out there spending money or investing money or earning money. You'll have a lot more freedom, is what I found.
Yeah. And just for my listeners, there can be so many different beliefs around money
Yeah.
from so for instance, Spencer, it sounds like you probably came from a pretty like successful family that had this money belief of like money is everything. This is how you will survive. This is how you're going to be stable. This is how safety, so on and so forth. Now I've
I,
told you.
I, yeah, I would say a family that we had enough money. What we didn't have was a sense of success and
Okay.
ease. It was a very fear-based family.
Yes. Okay.
Some of that maybe came from my family's sense of the Holocaust, being Jewish.
Okay.
My father growing up in the Great Depression. So there was always this fear that you're one moment away from being out on the street.
Yep.
So we often couldn't even enjoy the money that we had. And we
Okay.
lived extremely frugally because of that fear. I mean, we lived in
Mm.
a 700 square foot apartment for four of us.
Oh wow.
So we just bare boned everything to because there was this assumption that something bad is going to happen at any moment.
Okay. So sorry for assuming that. And thank you for
Yeah.
making that clear because I was going to get to that side of the spectrum of there could be fear around money for super successful people that are incredibly wealthy, but it can also be the opposite of if they didn't come up from a family with a lot of income, everything is fear based. We can't spend money on that because we don't have enough. Like the scarcity mindset is always running. And I feel for me, I know that's what like the
Yeah.
scarcity mindset has been going since I've been a little girl. I've told you on one of our episodes before, my dad always instilled in me um I must go to college because college
Mm,
equals money equals success equals security, stability. So then when I didn't finish college, I felt a great deal of shame around that.
mm.
Um But then I had him who made great money, but my parents weren't no longer married after kindergarten. So I lived with the single mom who was a nurse, who was literally making ends meet, who we were in a trailer, like lived in a trailer. And I could just see the stress, on her face. She would always try to give me what she could. I was always able to get homecoming dresses, prom dresses, whatever. But I do really think there was a lot of stress that came with that. And so I'm trying to say all this is because there are so many different money beliefs. There could be money beliefs of I must own the nicest purse
Yeah.
or car because that needs to show people that I
Yeah.
am worth. I mean,
Yes.
there's all kinds of money beliefs.
Oh, yes, yes. We grow up with all different flavors of
Yep.
it. Like, yes, that a car symbolizes wealth. I have to have a nice car. I have to have a nice front lawn. I have a nice house. I have to wear the nicest clothes. Or I have to hide it all. If I do have money, I have to hide that money. I know
Mm,
many people like that as well. So
yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of ways in which we are posturing ourselves around money based on these beliefs. There a lot of the beliefs are very negative. Yeah, I'm not good with money. I've lived with a lot of money's fearful, money's scary.
Mhm.
I don't have enough. I'll never have enough. Um, Everybody else has more, or rich people, are happier. I mean,
Yeah.
all of these beliefs, I just met with somebody who she's in her 70s and never saved money. And then it dawned on her that her family, made money, lost money, made money, lost money. And the
Mm.
message she got was don't hold on to it because it's all going to get lost anyway. That was how
Yeah.
her child, perceived it all that way, that money
Mhm.
is just to be spent because
Yeah.
it's so liquid, it's so ephemeral that you just spend it as soon as you get it. So
Yeah.
we have all these ideas, and then other people have the ideas that you shouldn't spend it, you know? So, that's why we see sometimes people will come together, spouses will come together who come from different backgrounds, and sometimes that can be healthy to
Right.
have. So it can be a little bit challenging, but sometimes it can be healthy to have that. You can't have two extreme like spenders together, right? Because they're just going to go bankrupt, and the two hoarders are never going to have any fun. So coming together and seeing that there is a benefit to that other person's way of being with money.
Mm.
There is something valuable, and let's try to find a balancing way of being with money so that our finances can thrive still. Um,
Yeah, exactly. Now, something I haven't had the opportunity to ask you in any of my interviews, I might have alluded to it or in one of them, but I didn't go too much off the beaten path, was something that I found really, really relieving and something that I want to mention here is that money is energy. It
yeah,
is, which means there is limitless amounts of money that we could always potentially access. But we have this I say we, whoever we are, what me, I'm one of them, we like this scarcity mindset, but that can affect us in many ways. And the point I'm trying to get at is money is energy. So if we're always operating out of a scarcity mindset, we're actually pushing it away instead, or maybe even manifesting like more bills to come. Like, I want more money, but you're scared. So then it'll manifest as money. Can you speak a little bit about that? Because I haven't heard like in any of our interviews, like talking about that. If you're comfortable about talking about
yeah,
money as an
yeah,
energy.
yeah. So it is a form of energy. I mean, first of all, there's no such thing as money. I mean, it's not anything real. It's a made up idea. You don't find money in nature exactly. It's an agreement. It's a faith-based system that we
Mhm.
agree that that this currency has value, and we agree to trade cars and clothes and everything else for it. The So that's an important thing to recognize, and and that how we hold this energy really impacts how this energy flows towards us and away from us.
Yep.
And I've seen this happen on many students and clients, that if we have an attitude, like I'm working with someone now who just grew up in a religious household where the parents felt like you should never charge for your services. They're both
Mm,
ministers,
mm,
and that's the message he got. That
yeah,
money is dirty. There's
yeah.
something evil about it. Instead of seeing it just an energy and a form of flow between two people, he got the
Mhm.
message that there was something um, less spiritual about money, and
Yeah.
that if you're really doing good work in the world, you shouldn't have to charge for your services. Everything should just somehow get taken care of. Well, that sort of worked for his parents. It didn't work for him because he didn't want to be a minister. And here he is doing his consulting work in the world and having a really hard time charging money for his services, and
Mm,
often doesn't talk about it until like he's well into a contract, and just sabotaging his
yeah.
financial well-being, but with this view that he has that there's something inherently bad about money. So it can affect us from earning the amount of money that we should be earning. And in his case, he's also become aware that by him not being so fearful around money, having that scarcity, or that money's a bad kind of
Mhm.
mindset thing, it it also robs the clients, because they're not paying for his services up front. There's a way in which he's become aware that they're not getting the full value of his service. They're not taking it as seriously.
Right. Yep.
So that's one possibility. The other one, so there's the view that money is bad. There's a view that there's just a scarcity of money,
Mhm.
that I can't have my share of this. It's only for those people, or no one in my family had it. There's a limited amount of money out there, and those kinds of thoughts will lead to us having a very fearful scarcity kind of energy around money, a
Yep.
more fearful energy around money.
Yep.
And here's the thing: it's like I'm not a metaphysical kind of person, but what I have found, I mean, there might be truth to that. I'm not going to say whether the metaphysics makes sense or not, but when we're so fearful with money,
Mhm.
when we have that fear around like not having enough of it, there's like I can never get enough of it. That fear-based mentality is going to just create more fear. We never satisfy, like, if we're of the belief that we don't have enough, that that I'm living in scarcity, if we're in fear, the more we practice being in fear, the more we grow that quality of fear. And
Yep.
what fear does to us from a scientific point of view, it does, I'm sure it does a lot of things on a metaphysical level
Mhm.
as well. But what it does, my sense on a science level, is it it narrows our vision, sort of
Yep.
literally and figuratively.
Yep.
So if you notice, if when you get scared in life, you get your vision narrows in because you're looking for the predator. And
Yep.
when we're fearful, we're not seeing the wide expanse in front of us. We're missing opportunities.
Yep.
And when we're fearful, we don't send as much energy, blood to the brain. We're not being as creative. We're not in that flow state. And it's in that flow state where we tend to be able to earn the most money or make the best money decisions. So all of that fear can lead us to do, we tend to get into a more reactive. We're in that fight flight mode, and
Yep.
that fight flight mode is that primitive part of the brain, that's that survival oriented part of the brain, the amygdala. And
Mhm.
that's where we're much more reactive. And
Yeah.
we don't want to be reactive around money, because it's that reactivity that tends us to get us in trouble. We want to be more using our common sense, using the wisdom that each of us has with money, and really reflect and say, is this the right purchase for me? Is this the right investment? Is this the right way to save money or earn money? It's that ability to pause
Mm-hmm.
and see the big picture when we're making a financial decision. Maybe even have the wherewithal. Here's another thing, is that when
Yeah.
we're in fear, we often don't speak to other people. We
Mm.
want to keep it all
No.
to ourselves, right? When we're in that fear, the fear brings on shame also.
Yep.
We don't want to tell other people what's happening. And
Mm-mm.
that's another thing that really limits us. So what I say about money is that when you start noticing that you're in that place of fear, get some outside perspective. Get
Mm.
get a money ally, an accountability buddy. There, it's priceless. And you can do this on. You can get a professional financial advisor who can be that money ally, accountability buddy. But you can also get a friend who's got common sense. They don't need to be a financial person, but just someone
Right.
with common sense who can give you that reflective, objectivity back of saying, "Whoa, you're going to buy that house? Is that really what you want to do?" It
Mm-hmm.
does help you pause and look at the numbers before fear drives you to buy something just because you feel like, well, everyone else owns the house right now. I've got to get into the housing market. You
Yep.
know, it's those fear-based decisions that usually don't work out as well for us over time.
Oh, that is so true. And I was looking at your website with your 10 steps to what is it? I got to scroll up here. What is it? What is it? What is it? Oh, the mindful guide to financial freedom.
Yeah.
And one of the best quotes, and I don't even know if it's a quote, but it says that one of the things it says is you are responding to fixed beliefs and not common sense.
Mm,
And that spoke to me so much because you've given so many examples of this before, where the person that is investing in stocks or however you say that, like, pulls out when he shouldn't have, like when it's at the bottom or something,
yeah.
and you're like, this person is a very smart financial person, they have common sense, but their emotions took over, or their fixed beliefs or whatever. And that quote just really spoke to me, not just around money but around anything, because we're all kind of, not all of us, but we all are sometimes operating with these limiting beliefs when we're very smart and we are capable of doing this, that, and the other, but it's the limiting beliefs that are
Yes,
not
yes,
letting us go.
and what has really helped me and helped others is recognizing that you don't need to get rid of these beliefs. That as
Mm.
bad as, let's say you got the worst possible beliefs from your parents or the culture, that I'm never going to be successful, I'm never going to be happy, I'm never going to have any money, I'm always going to be, running, being on
Yeah.
credit card debt, whatever beliefs you got, or I'm not smart enough. I mean, a lot of people get that those messages from there. They're not
Mhm.
smart enough to be good with money,
Yeah.
or you need to marry someone to take care of you. You
Right.
can't do it on your own. Whatever beliefs you got, I'm going to say you don't need to get rid of the beliefs. I'm going to even say don't get rid of the beliefs, because it's a little bit of a trick here. But if you don't try to get rid of the beliefs, you're no longer in a fight with those beliefs.
Mm.
And those beliefs stop controlling you so much. We're really aiming for a loosening. And it's the awareness of those beliefs and interrupting patterns. Like as soon as you notice yourself thinking that thought, to go take a walk, call a friend, do something to interrupt the pattern. Like you're about to buy something on online, just interrupt that pattern. Do
Right.
something different. That's the way we start to shake things up, and then give yourself a square of dark chocolate at the end of the day or something for interrupting the pattern, because
Yeah.
that's how we do it.
I love that. Now, there's two different, tell me if these are two of the same different practices. You have your enough practice,
Yeah.
and then you also have the rain practice. Are
Mhm.
these the same practices? Or are they two different ones?
Yeah, so they are different. I mean, they can lead to sort of similar results. I think the rain practice is really a beautiful practice for these beliefs that we're talking about. I mean, both of them are, but I can say that the RAIN practice is really about, if I had to sum it up, it's really about feeling what's happening instead of thinking about what's happening.
I
So
like
with
that.
money, we tend to go to the head and we get into this whole spiral. I just, um, I know someone who just their car was just stolen.
Me.
It's like,
That's me.
that's you, Melissa. Okay. All right. Well, I don't want to spill the beans, but we can talk and we can go into this. But, we start to go into this cycle of thoughts. Like, I shouldn't have left the car unlocked. I should have gotten the right insurance, should have done this, should have done that. I'm so bad with money. And to get out of that, this RAIN practice kind of invites us to feel the feelings that are underneath, the sensations in the body that are underneath the thoughts. And the more we give attention to the sensations of the body and the less attention we give to those recirculating thoughts, we do several things. We interrupt a pattern. We're giving less attention to the thoughts. So we're not training our brains to stay in those cycles. And we're giving attention to the part of the body where we haven't for so long. Like, we weren't able to, maybe when we were kids, to really feel what was happening because it was maybe too terrifying. But a lot of our ways of being with money come out of some of our earliest trauma, with money growing up or just general trauma growing up. A lot of our ways of our money personalities sort of come out of that.
Yeah.
So, and the enough practice, I feel, is this universal practice for wellness, because it helps us to see the possibility to take on an enough mindset, to take on a mindset of having, doing, and being enough in this moment. And that's so radical because I think almost everybody has brought up with the idea that more is better, and that the future will hold something that the present doesn't. And that is kind of taking us way off course in our lives. It's not that the future isn't important, but we kind of put way too much focus on the future with our finances. And we have this idea, this fantasy, that I still can feel it in myself. This fantasy that if I had a little more, if I had an extra 1,000 or 100,000 or 1,000,000, somehow my life would be so much richer, so much better. And of course, the evidence is very contrary to that. It's just not true. And the very act of thinking those thoughts perpetuates a sense of scarcity, because you're in that mindset of getting this extra money will do something to me. So you're basically saying that what I have is not enough. And that mindset of not enoughness breeds this fear, this scarcity, not the kind of mindset we want when we are at work, right? We don't want that scarcity mindset. So I don't know. I'm open to going in any direction, Melissa. Do you want to play with what happened to you, or?
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, yeah, why not? So for my listeners, if you listen to my last episode, I talked a little bit about it, but today is Monday, May 8th, and my car has now been stolen. It was stolen 11 days ago, and I don't have it back. Don't know if I'm going to get it back. And I had liability only, so I can't get a new car because I didn't have full coverage. Lesson learned there. And so recently I'm carrying some shame of just being in this unfortunate financial position of I wasn't prepared to get a new car, to add a car payment to my to what I'm doing right now. And so there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of shame, there's a lot of why weren't you prepared to do this and all this stuff. So just kind of giving the backstory.
It's great. It's great. So this is a great example of how we can stay in those thought patterns around something that happens to us. So I think the first thing is recognizing that setbacks are normal. You are totally normal. You're in very good company, because all of us have little and big setbacks throughout our lives.
Yeah.
And I think so many of us are trying to position our finances in a way so that everything is just perfect. And
Yes.
there isn't enough forms of insurance to do that. And if you buy every form of insurance, you can just kind of spend all your money on it, have nothing to spend at the grocery store if you're just buying every form of insurance out
Yeah.
there. And you just cannot, even with insurances, prevent things from happening. It's inevitable. It happens to wealthy people, to poor people, and I have a lot of compassion for what happened to you.
Mhm.
Especially to someone where, yeah, it's a big deal. So I want to recognize that for some people, getting
Thank
their
you.
car stolen might not have such a big financial impact, but for some
Mhm.
of us, it does.
Right.
And so the first thing is to recognizing the universality of financial ups and downs,
Mhm.
that somehow we've been told that if you do your life correctly, you won't have we have these thoughts like everything will be smooth sailing. And then there's the shame that comes on. Well, wait a second, I just had a setback. Like, I thought I was doing so well. I saved up all this money and look what happened. My car
Mhm.
got stolen. The stock market went down. I lost my job. Now I'm really messed up. Like, it's really my fault.
Yep.
And the shame starts coming. So one of the ways to deal with the shame is to offer compassion for yourself, to
Okay.
just to feel some love for yourself, that this is something that happens to many human beings. All human beings go through setbacks, and to feel those feelings. It's, again, like I said about dealing with our beliefs around money, is to feel the sensations in the body below the thoughts about getting your car stolen. So I'll just
Okay.
ask you right now, if you're willing, what are some of the sensations that you either felt when it first happened, or maybe you're feeling now around your car being stolen?
Mm.
Not the thoughts, but the sensations in the body.
If I'm being honest, when it first happened, I was completely calm, which
Mhm.
I don't know if that was from shock or just I'm getting much better at handling my emotions, and
Yeah.
I've done a lot of healing work. Um, I don't know if this is a sensation so much as I feel like I'm walking around like smaller, like I did
Mm,
something wrong, or like not just that my car got stolen, but like why am I even on this path and now I can't get myself out of this. So I'm trying to ask myself like what sensations I've felt.
well, let's go with right now. What are you feeling like right now? And you think about the car being stolen, is there any, like, pressure or
Anxiety.
anxiety? You feel some anxiety, some tension in the body, maybe,
Yeah. Yeah,
um, maybe
definitely.
some heat or some, yeah.
That's yes, yes, yes. Heat for
Okay,
sure. Yep.
okay, that's great. So just being aware of those things is very helpful. And I'd say the next thing is sort of look at, what are the beliefs that you think are leading to you feeling so much shame and upset around this. If you had to, if if you knew that this was all tied to like one or two beliefs, what might those one or two beliefs be that you learned growing up around money?
The first belief is that I guess like if my dad was looking down on heaven, which he wouldn't be this much of a jerk, but he would say like, "I told you so. You should have been prepared. Why
Yes.
didn't you do this? Like this is why I preach so much to you that you have to go to college to be
Yeah.
successful and that's the only way." That belief for sure.
Yes.
Um
That you didn't do it right.
yeah.
You should have done it differently. You would have been much more successful if you had done it differently. So that's a
Yeah.
very strong message and belief to take on. And here we're talking about this car that got stolen.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. Okay. And anything else?
Then the opposite one is my mom always struggling because she was a single mom and I don't want to say nurses struggle, but you know, she struggled. So then the next belief is this is my life. This is just how my life will always be. My mom struggled. Had my daughter when I was 16. I've struggled. I'm just on this trajectory, always struggling, always struggling.
You're always going to be struggling,
Yep.
and or the belief that you really messed up. You should have listened to
Mm-hmm.
me.
Yep.
So, wow, both of those can just feel like dread from your mom. If it's always going to be this way, shame from your dad. I mean, you just being aware of how those are two powerful forces that are driving you to feel a certain way about this car being stolen.
Yep.
And so that's all great awareness. And then to say, what's, what's, like when you told me this story, I, I loved you sharing it because I felt like as you shared it and you started, what I sensed is that, it took some courage to share it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to honor, like the courage to share about something like that. Even though it's universal, it takes each of us courage when we share something like that. And it's that vulnerability is a real opportunity for connection. So I felt very connected to you. And I'm wondering if just in that sharing, how that impacted some of the shame.
Yeah. Well, and it was specifically to you, and it's to you because you're like one of the most successful like financial people in the country, if not the world. So I'm like, I'm about to tell this guy
Yeah.
of kind of my financial status. And if I can tell him, then maybe I can just own it and not let it have so much like power over me,
Wow. Yeah.
Like
Yes.
I'm like,
Yeah.
if he's not, and but also the thought process was if he's not going to judge me, then why should I judge myself? Because there's so much judgment coming from myself, I guess. And I'm
Yes.
like, this man is in a way different financial position than
Yes.
I am. But if he can still hold compassion for me, then I should be able to do the same.
Yes, that's all I felt was compassion. I didn't feel any of like what your father might have thought or felt that
Right.
you should have done it differently. You should have known how to be successful. You messed it up, or your mother, like it's always going to be this way.
Hmm.
Just confirms that you're just going to have a life of dread, kind of. Yeah, I didn't have any of those feelings or thoughts. I had just compassion and just seeing like, wow, so like what's possible now? What's possible in your life today? And then we started talking a little bit, and I even felt this like, wow, there are going to be people who are going to be excited. I mean, I felt some excited about can I help you in some way? Like, is there a
Yeah.
GoFundMe campaign? Like, I want to know. It's like when you share this kind of story, it it invites all of us to help each other. It
Yeah.
invites you to let go of the shame so that you can see opportunities. So I'm wondering, what might become clear to you or what might be possible. I don't know if anything comes to mind, like how might you resolve the situation for yourself? If you didn't have shame, let's pretend for a moment that you had zero
Mm,
shame and
$1 million question.
and you were free to do anything, what would you do?
Then I'm gonna answer that honestly, and I would ask for help
Mm,
from supporters or friends or
yeah.
anything for the fact that I am not in a financial position to get a car payment, to add another 2, 3, $400 to my
Yes.
already bills.
Yes.
Um, and I struggle with that because it's nobody's responsibility to save me, but at the same time, I guess I try to help as many people as possible, from homeless people on the roads. Anytime I carry cash, there are plenty of homeless people on the streets of St. Louis. I always give them cash. My girlfriend's house burnt down last year. I sent her $100. I
Yeah.
was happy to do this to take off
Yeah.
any of their stress or anything. So I'm like, then why would you have shame around this if you're willing to help any of these people? You're not looking at them any different. You're happy to help. So that would be my honest answer, is to help,
Yeah.
ask for help.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. I think you just telling the story is going to invite a lot of people to be generous, which is actually an act of service from you
Which
to
we
let the
talked
rest of us
about.
be generous, because generosity is one of the most powerful things to bring on in oneself. It's a
Yeah.
pathway to abundance. So you're, in some ways, you're helping people. As long as we're being genuine, when we're sharing a real story like you are, there there's I think there's only good things that can come from that. And I think the other thing that's possible is that somebody might say, maybe somebody's going to say, well, I have this car that I was going to sell, but this is going to make my life easy. I can give it to you. I could sell it to you at a reduced price or
Yeah.
something. That might happen. So I think by you getting engaged in the world and letting people know without shame what happened, and you're
Mhm.
trying to get your life, back together financially, I think that's where the magic happens.
Yeah.
And I also think, you really looking at the numbers, because you had this car payment that got paid off.
Mhm.
But I also wonder, like, the car, at some point, you would probably need a new car, right? Because this car was probably getting a little bit older, right?
Yeah.
So it's to recognize all that too,
Mhm.
that maybe there's, to just know the numbers. Like, maybe you were going to go another year or 2 years without a car payment, but maybe you would have had to have a car payment two
Right.
or 3 years from now. I think recognizing all of that might be helpful too, because
Yeah.
sometimes we stay away from the numbers when we're locked in shame.
Sometimes.
Right.
A lot of
A lot
times.
of times. So I think you've just done great work. Like, you've got awareness of the patterns from your childhood that are
Mhm.
both keeping you in shame, but also maybe keeping you from seeing earning opportunities. Like, that's
Yes.
another part of the
Yes.
equation here, is how could you open yourself to earning some more money?
Mhm.
Um, and without the weight of life is always going to be dreadful, or I did it all wrong, from your father, without those heavy voices in your mind, as you start to feel the sensations underneath those voices, those voices will have less control over you,
Yeah.
and you might have the space to see a new earnings path, or a path that augments your current earnings. So that's
Yeah.
the other side of this, is just, I want you to be more. My wish for you is to be more spacious, to be out of that dread, to be out of the that I didn't do it right mode. You did do it right. You've gotten to this fantastic place in your life. And what's possible now?
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And I appreciate you like going through that exercise with me, because I've tried to do it, and I think for a moment I just want to give anybody that's listening like just compassion, because working through limiting beliefs is some of the hardest work that you will ever
Really,
ever ever do.
really hard, really hard. And these practices that we're talking about are very counterintuitive,
Mhm.
because it's like not intuitive to like go to the body, because it's the thoughts are so compelling,
I know.
and we're wired to believe that I'm going to work this out by staying up here.
Yep.
But we know that we just recirculate, like, especially when we've got a complex issue in our lives or something, and we say, why did that friend not call me back? And we just stay up here,
Yeah.
and instead we just have to feel what's happening in the body. That's where the openings are. That's where often the truth is in feeling what's in the body.
Yep.
That's what will set us free
Yep.
often,
Mm.
is going there. And then this counterintuitive practice, we talked about this enough practice, and it's like, here you are, Melissa. You're super intelligent, super gifted, super powerful person. Like, you have enough. You have more than enough in so many ways. and this car thing is going to get resolved.
It
It just
is.
will, right? It's getting
Yep.
resolved.
Yep.
And we forget that we already have enough. We already do enough. We already are enough. So this enough practice is countering the decades of um, of culture, that decades of conditioning that's taught us
Mm.
that we're just not enough, that we have to be something other than who we are, that we have to have more money, we have to, like, we're okay as long as we're different than who we are, or
Yeah.
as long as we have more money than we are. But what about right and now in this moment? And to me, I've had some of the biggest successes in my life when I've recognized that I'm enough just the way I am.
Yeah.
Like, you stop shaming and and nixing yourself and cutting yourself up. And
Right.
those are like that. That's usually where you see opportunities. Like, magic
Mhm.
starts to happen when you let go of that idea that you're not enough.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of people are driving Rolls Royces in this moment who are, stuck in shame or negative patterns. And even with all the cars they have, they're
Right.
feeling miserable and depressed, or
Mhm.
they've got some, really horrible health condition or something. So this is like important to recognize that you have so much going for you, and you don't have a car right now. So you can get that fixed. But it's one small piece of you.
Right.
Not,
Yeah.
it's not 80% of you, and our mind starts to make it
Ugh.
be 80%, right?
Yeah. That was another thing on your guide, and like just the I mean, we've went through your enough practice before, but just keep coming back to it. Keep coming back to it, because there will always be stuff that arises that makes us feel like we're not enough, or we're comparing ourselves to somebody or something like that. And I really like the fact that you brought up, whoever's driving the Rolls Royce, or a listener that might have, lots and lots of money, but they're still feeling empty. This
Yes.
is the practice that you should be doing, because bring awareness of, okay, well, if I have all this money but there's still something's missing, this is the time you can start figuring out you are already enough. The money
You
was
are already
never
enough.
the thing.
Exactly. Exactly. This car is kind of, it's something, it's a useful thing in your life, but it's not who you are. Once you get the car back or another car, that's not going to do it for you.
Right.
You already have all these gifts inside.
Yeah.
And when we're in that, see, the reason I'm moving in this direction, it's
Mhm.
counterintuitive, but the more we accept the truth of who we are, is that we are enough in this moment. That has an effect. It relaxes our nervous system. And when our
Yeah.
nervous systems are no longer in this overdrive, that's when our minds are working the best.
Yep.
And I want your mind to be like at its tip top shape in this moment, because you're facing some challenges and you
Mhm.
need your brain to be operating in its highest mode,
Yeah.
not in that fight, flight,
Mm-mm.
fearful scarcity mode. So that's this practice of, it's not just telling yourself you're enough, it's
Mhm.
actually feeling it in the body and finding evidence for it, like
Oh,
noticing all the things you already have that
yeah.
we dismiss or overlook.
I love that. I love that. I love that. Well, we have talked about a lot. Is there
Yeah.
anything before we go that you want to share that we might have missed? I mean, we could have went in so many different
Yeah.
directions, but I like, where it
Well,
went.
yes, yes. Well, I think what's happened is that we've shown, and I keep getting reminded of this. I mean, I just feel some goosebumps that when stuff happens to us with money, and it always does, it happens to rich people. And that's the other thing, Melissa, is just like all of us knowing that everyone has challenges with money. And they're often,
Mhm.
the challenges are right here between our ears. They're not
Yeah.
necessarily always with the substance of money. I mean, there are some
Yep.
rich people that have tons of money, But when we recognize that even they're not feeling enough, that the
Mhm.
pathway to enough is not by getting more, it's by recognizing who we are in this moment that we overlook, that we're not seeing the grandness of who we are. That's what's going to get us into that right mindset to actually get the job we need or increase our earnings or start to manage our finances better. Is, that I love about this, about your story, is that all these times when we have setbacks, when we have challenges with money,
Mhm.
these are huge doorways to personal growth. I would say three things. I mean, personal growth, right?
Mm. Yep.
They're a doorway to changing our relationship to money. That this car getting
Mhm.
stolen is an opportunity for you to change your relationship with money. It's an opportunity for personal growth. And three, it's an opportunity for you to really change the amount of money that you have.
Mm.
Not that you
Yep.
need to,
Right.
but that when you can shift the mindset to that enough mindset, which got sparked by the car getting stolen,
Yep.
you you become a much better receptacle for making more money. You're no longer, when you start moving from that scarcity
Yes.
consciousness to more of a receptive consciousness,
Yeah.
more more of a
Thriving and not surviving.
thriving consciousness. Yes, yes, I like the word thriving better than abundant, because abundant has sort of like a
Yeah.
little bit of a Pollyanna feel to it. But yes, I
Yeah.
like that, a thriving mindset, that you already are thriving. And when we kind of connect in with our existential, that we're already thriving as we are, we we show up differently
Yeah. You're
and
so
we
right.
act differently around money. That you have all that you need within you. You have enough. You are enough. You do enough. That is likely to lead to more money. But here's the funny thing about it, is like, you no longer are grasping it. You no longer need it. So when you get the more money, it may not produce this rah-rah sensation, but that's a blessing,
Yeah.
because you've gotten that you have it all yourself. I mean, I think an analogy I've sometimes made, it's sort of like in the dating world, right? When you're grasping for a relationship, you're so much more less likely to have one,
Yep.
right? Because we don't want to be around people that are grasping,
Mm-mm.
right?
Mm-mm. No.
So, and that's the scarcity mindset, and it's the same with money. When we can let go of the grasping, so you can even like do an experiment with your fist, like make a fist, and you feel how that is. It's very tight. You
Right.
feel like your whole arm gets tighter as you make that fist, and you start to slowly unravel that fist, and there's just this expansiveness that happens,
Mm.
this relaxation in the body that happens. The mind
Yep.
even relaxes, and we start making better decisions, and more
Yes.
money is likely to come to us. So it's you're on a good. May this be the doorway to a real turning point, a real pivot point in your financial life, in your whole life, Melissa.
Well, thank you. And I think all those things that you said about the personal growth, changing my relationship to money, I think, yeah,
Mm,
there will be a story somewhere down the road, whether it's in 2 weeks, a month, a year,
yes.
to be able to say this changed a lot of stuff. And it's usually the breakdowns that then there's breakthroughs. So I'm convinced that this is going to be the thing. And
Yes, yes, because you're going to start to let go of those. That you start to loosen your relationship to those things you got early on.
Yeah.
That you've messed it up. It's going to be dreadful.
Yeah.
That's going to be more in the background, and in the foreground is going to be more of this sense of enoughness of who you are
Yes.
already.
Exactly.
That
Yeah.
anything is possible in any moment for you.
Yes. And I'm doing all the healing work and all that stuff, so damn it, it's my time.
Yes, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, Spencer, I ask all my guests this.
Yeah.
I'm going to put you on the spot, but in your own words, what does the bright side of life mean to you?
Mm. let's see. The bright side of life to me is having a sense of enough,
Mm,
is having a sense that I'm okay as I am,
yeah.
that that uh, that I don't need to grasp for anything. I don't need to do anything differently than I'm already doing. Um, that I'm okay as I am. I mean, that's the bright side of life. Is like when I'm in that place, that's when magic happens. I mean, that's when when I think I've met most amazing people in my life when I've been in that place of ease and acceptance.
Oh,
Um, and um, yeah, so I would say that's the bright side of life for me is recognizing that I have everything I need right
oh,
now.
that
Right?
that is beautiful. I love that definition. So thank you so much for that.
You're quite
Um,
welcome.
really quickly, where can people find out any of
Yeah,
your work
so
that you do, website, all that fun
yes,
stuff?
it's Spencer-Sherman.com. Spencer-Sherman.com is the website.
Perfect.
Everything is on there. I've got all these online programs. I've got in-person stuff. I've got stuff for the public, and I also have court retreats for financial advisors. So I
Perfect.
offer both. And
Awesome.
yeah, look forward to if anyone wants to dive in deeper, you can get in touch with me at the Spencer-Sherman.com website. All right,
Awesome.
Melissa, great to be with
Spencer,
you.
thank you too. Thank you
Always
so
a pleasure.
much. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye bye.